minimizing regret, like 5 to 6 hours of sleep. No, I don't have a mustache. And she's like, it's not that you're ugly.
That's how you know they like you. If you get all three questions correct, then I have to sing a song of your choice. How many colors are there in a rainbow?
It's Roygbv. ROYGBV. Six plus or minus one. Because indigo, wait, this is the. Okay, I'm gonna say six. Yeah, that's my final answer.
I just got beer in my eye.
There's no fire pit, but this is as close as we're gonna get to it.
Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of Sippin Soju. We have a very special guest here, one of my great friends from college, Mr. Harley Zhu.
Hey, Max, thanks for having me on this podcast. It's an honor to be here, especially seeing Guan's appearance last week. I was just anticipating my invitation as well, and I'm very, very honored to be on the Sippin Soju podcast as the second guest.
Of course, man. I would not have extended the invitation to anyone else. So.
Not even Calvin. Calvin's got to be here one day, right?
Work in progress. We'll put it at that. Yeah.
All right, for sure.
But yeah, before we kick things off, Harley, I just realized that during the first podcast, I never explained what Sippin Soju even is. So I want to do a quick plug here, and then we'll dive right into it, if that sounds good with you.
That sounds good.
So to everyone who's been watching and supporting so far, thank you so much. Sippin Soju is just a podcast where I interview a bunch of my friends who are doing really cool things, and hopefully that knowledge will be helpful for you later on as you embark on your next professional journey, as a lot of my friends have been doing really interesting work that I think would be beneficial for you to hear. So we're just here after hours, kicking back. I actually have an unmarked beverage here, no free promo, but hear this ASMR though.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, while I'm pouring this glass right here, Harley, yeah, if you don't mind, just giving a little bit of an intro about yourself, like where you're from, where you went to undergrad, what you did post-college, and what's your favorite YouTube channel?
So my name is Harley. I am currently in the transition phase between my previous job and my current job. I went to Yale with Max. I also have a drink right here. I don't have beer like Max does, but I do have some cold brew with store-bought cold brew with some soy milk on here. Very long story about the soy milk, because I think Max was there firsthand with the fiasco in New York when I did not drink soy milk and I realized I was lactose intolerant. But we can share that story later in the podcast. But I went to Yale with Max. We roomed together for 2 years, and I studied economics while I was on campus, and I took a lot of psychology classes as well. I was thinking about double majoring in psychology and economics. Ended up just choosing economics. After graduation, I ended up going back to Las Vegas, which is where I'm from, and I taught as a high school math teacher with Teach for America. And currently, I finished my 2-year stint with Teach for America, and now I'm going into management consulting in Washington, D.C.
First of all, Harley, excuse me, congratulations on finishing TFA. So everyone watching, you can start virtually clapping right now. That's fantastic. Definitely want to dive a little bit more into how your experience was there later on. But my last question actually was, what is your favorite YouTube channel right now?
My favorite YouTube channel, I think one of the YouTubers that I've been watching ever since high school, I think I started watching them in college, is Mikey Chen. If you don't know who Mikey Chen is, he's more commonly known by Strictly Dumpling, and he just travels to a lot of places eating food and recording his adventures. And that's one thing I think, if I had to name a dream job, it would definitely be doing exactly what he's doing. So he's living my life right now, and he's for sure probably my favorite YouTuber. Yeah.
I completely agree. I feel like recently, especially during quarantine when we couldn't travel, I was like living vicariously through old content like food and stuff like that. So
exactly.
I was hoping you'd say Sippin Soju was your favorite YouTube channel, but that was a long shot. We're
Hey,
just getting things started here.
once we have a couple more episodes, I think it'll definitely be up there as one of my top YouTube channels. And every time you don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because every time there's a new episode, I'll definitely be one of the first people to watch it and comment.
Hey, I didn't even have to pay you for that. Thank you for the free plug.
I got you.
My
I
guy
got you.
Harley. But awesome. We'll just dive right into it then. Yeah, Harley, I guess could you give a little bit more background about where you're from, like specifically where you were born and like your upbringing? I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, of course. I was born in China, and I moved to the States when I was 5 years old with my family, and we settled in Las Vegas ever since then. So I grew up for most of my life in Las Vegas, and in Las Vegas, when you think about Las Vegas, you kind of have the first initial impression of the casinos and the strip, but that's very much not the local Vegas lifestyle. I feel like it's very much like suburban lifestyle outside of the strip. And growing up, I mostly went to public schools for elementary, middle, and high school. And I was very thankful to have a pretty supportive family when it came to academics. I had a pretty good opportunity to just like basically focus on academics while I was growing up and didn't have too many worries outside of that. So I'm pretty thankful for that. In high school, I did pretty well, and especially like middle school, high school, academics came pretty easy to me. So I was able to do pretty well and get into a pretty good school like Yale. And yeah, that's a little bit about my academic upbringing.
Gotcha. And do you think that being born in China had any impact on how you adapted to like the American school system and just in general socializing? Because I don't I can't quite remember if we talked about this, but English was not your first language, right?
No, it was not my first language. I remember when I first got to America, I didn't go to like public school immediately. I went to Chinese school. Like it was a private Chinese school, just for kids to like practice their Chinese. And I remember having a really hard time making friends as a kid, because I didn't know the language. I didn't know English at all. And I feel like a lot of the kids that were my age at the time didn't know Chinese that well. So there was definitely a communication gap there. And it was just hard making friends. I remember like during recess time, they would give us snacks, and I would barter for friends. I would say like, I'll give you my snacks if you became friends with me. So that was one of the first memories I have of coming to America, was having a pretty difficult time making friends, especially being pretty young. But there was another time as well, when I think it was like the first day of kindergarten, that we had to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I had no idea what was going on. And I was just like mouthing words. I was saying random words. I didn't know a single word of English at the time, but I was just saying random stuff. And the kid next to me, I remember him telling me to like be quiet, don't say anything at all, because I was just making random sounds at that time.
Wow, that's yeah, the not only the culture shock. Well, granted, you were still very young, but just having a language barrier, especially when you're so young and at such a young age, I feel like that's extremely tough to make friends. And the fact that you came up with the idea to barter and to trade snacks for to make friends, that's really creative. And also I feel like that makes sense about why you majored in economics.
Yeah, it was a deep upbringing that affected the rest of my life.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for sharing that, Harley. Do you think that because you had such trouble as a young child with adapting to the school system and with understanding the difficulties of learning a new language, did that have any impact at all as to make you want to do Teach for America post grad?
I think it definitely did. Like with when it comes to students with like second languages, it's especially difficult for them to adapt to classrooms that aren't primarily catered to them. I think like as for my experience, one of the things that wasn't too academically related was just a roll call, like attendance, because my legal name is not Harley. That it's a name that I kind of my dad actually came up with to make it a little bit easier for people to address me by. But my legal name is my the Chinese pronunciation of my Mandarin name. And every time during roll call, I think even up until high school, my last name would usually put me at the end of the attendance roll sheet. And I always had like anxiety building up to my name being called, because I knew the teacher would always get my name wrong, and a lot of students in the classroom would like laugh, and everyone would kind of giggle whenever it came to my name. So it's like small things like that that make the learning experience a little bit not as inclusive as it could be, and that was one thing I wanted to not have repeated in my classroom when I became a teacher myself.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have a similar experience from just going to primarily like Southern high school, elementary school, and all that stuff. And when you don't have a common last name, I don't think there's any intentional mispronunciation there. It's just like they're just unfamiliar, and that does make it a bit awkward, and it does make it just like challenging for the student sometimes to feel like they're fit in and they're a part. But
Exactly.
now that we're talking about TFA, how did you find out about TFA? Like, what brought that opportunity to your plate? Was this something that you individually researched, or could you go into a little more detail there?
Yeah, I think it was a buildup of many different kind of like coincidences. The first time I heard about it was probably in our sophomore year. There was a senior who was about to graduate, and she was also in the same dorms as we were. She went to the same high school that I did. She also went to she was also from Las Vegas as well. And she told me that she was doing Teach for America after graduation. And that was the first time I heard about it. And it seemed like a really cool opportunity because I never thought about becoming a teacher, especially right after graduation. So that was the first time I heard about it. And then in my junior summer, right before my senior year, I interned at a management consulting firm. And one of my mentors there was a very accomplished consultant and just a professional. He was someone I really looked up to. And at the beginning of his career, he also did Teach for America. And he spoke really highly of his experience. And I would hear a lot of stories about his teaching stories and his teaching experience, and how it made him the person he is today. And I think both of those occurrences just put Teach for America top of mind for me. And during my senior year, when I was heavily thinking about what I wanted to do, it was definitely one of the things that I was looking at like seriously.
Gotcha. And in terms of the application process, do you mind breaking it down a little bit? Is it like you apply through their portal and then you have a series of interviews, or I'm completely oblivious to that process?
I think for me, it was like a 4-step process. The first step was just a coffee chat just to learn a little bit more about it and get my name onto their radars. They did do campus recruiting for Yale. So I think that helped a little bit because they came to our campus, and you're able to grab free coffee with them as you hear more about Teach for America. And then the second step was the actual application. It was on the website itself. And when I put my application in, I think it was very basic information in the beginning, and then they would ask you to do some tasks, whether it was like writing, responding to like a prompt, or creating a PowerPoint deck. I remember doing both things. So that was step number 2. And then if you pass that, step number 3 was you're going to have a virtual live interview with someone from Teach for America. And during that live interview, it was broken up into 2 phases. Like the first phase was you would have to prepare a 5-minute video presentation, or a 5-minute lesson, basically, that you would have to teach your interviewer. And I think the purpose of that was to gauge your ability to teach. And then the second part of that, they would give you another prompt. It was very similar to a case study where they would say, this is happening in some school or some classroom. How would you respond to this? So that was the third step. And then the fourth step was, I guess there were only 3 steps. Maybe it was only 3 steps. You might have had to talk to someone else after that, but I think it was a pretty long process, separated into a couple months. But I don't remember it being extremely strenuous or like too pressure filled. I think they were definitely trying to gauge if you genuinely wanted to become a teacher, and they wanted to see if you were a good fit or not.
In terms of the duration, you said it was a couple of months. Is that from when you first had that coffee side chat to when you were extended the offer? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think I probably had the coffee chat in October or so, like in the fall, and I didn't know my final placement and acceptance into Teach for America until I'd say the winter time, right before our second semester of college. I'd say 2 or 3 months is the entire process for that.
And in terms of the training, I'm very curious from going from a student who just graduated and finished undergrad to becoming like the head teacher for many subjects. How is the training at Teach for America and how long is that process?
So my training was a little bit untraditional because during my transition into Teach for America, it was at the peak of the pandemic. So all of my training was online, but what I understand about, they call it Institute. It's a summer training, and traditionally, what they would have you do, especially for the Las Vegas region, is they would have all of the incoming Teach for America cohort go to the local university, and you would, I think, you would live in the dorms and spend about like 2 weeks doing a boot camp,
Oh,
taking
wow.
classes, and going to like different courses on like teaching theory. But for us, all of that was online. So most of it was through Zoom. I remember sitting through hours and hours of Zoom through breakout rooms and all of that stuff. I'm pretty confident that that is no longer the case. I think they went back to the in-person institute for most regions probably. So I forgot the full duration of it, but it would definitely took up a good amount of the summer. And then I don't know if this applied to every Teach for America region, but for our region, after we had those classes, a couple of weeks of classes, then we would have some tutoring for summer school, and that was also online as well. So in my school district, you had a select group of kids who would do, I don't know if it was like additional tutoring or whatnot, but it was 2 weeks of summer school classes that they would take. And I remember teaching pre-algebra during those 2 weeks alongside another Teach for America core member. And we would be supervised by a current Teach for America core member. So it was definitely a lot of training during that summer, but I don't think, in my opinion, the best training for me was definitely the hands-on experience of teaching that summer class. And also I did a lot of private tutoring on the side as well, because I knew the best way for me to learn was actually doing the task and getting a lot of experience through it. So in addition to all of those classes, I also taught SAT and ACT on the side. And that provided me with a lot of experience. And I think that definitely helped me become a lot more comfortable when it came to teaching.
Gotcha. So overall, from beginning of training to the very end, including all of your other extracurricular and other, professional side gigs that you had, you felt very comfortable and you felt like you were just going to rock it as a teacher.
No, absolutely not. I think the first week, especially being like a really young teacher, was had its own challenges. I remember the first day of classes. It was all virtual for 3 out of 4 quarters. We were on a quarter system, so 3/4 of my first year in Teach for America was fully virtual. That was an interesting experience in itself. It just wasn't it wasn't something that I grew up with, and I don't think a lot of students were used to having fully virtual school either. So that was a challenge in itself. And I remember the first day of classes when people came into the Google Meet, students were filing in, and when I started talking, I saw a lot of surprised faces on the Google Meet because I think they thought that I was a student. I saw some laughs as well, thinking that I was just a student pretending to be the teacher. I definitely felt like I was a little bit more prepared than I was while I was a student in college. But I definitely had the learning curve was really steep, I think, during the first 2 quarters. It was difficult to find like my workflow, what worked best for my students, what worked best for me. The hours felt really long as well during the first 2 quarters, just because I didn't really understand what was like best way to make a lesson? What was the it was a lot of like experimenting. Will this be a good lesson plan? If I taught it this way, would it be good? Would this tool be good? So it was a lot of experimenting and learning during those first couple of months.
But with all things, when you start it for the first time, it takes a lot more time, but then slowly you develop a routine. And by the end of your second year, you were probably in a huge groove where you probably had a fantastic relationship with your students, and they probably definitely, understood how you like to handle the classroom, and all of that was a lot more easier to figure out, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think after a couple, especially after like the first or second quarter, when students understand like what to expect from your classroom, and on the teacher's side as well, if you create a consistent routine, I feel like that's really useful. Of course, there are like pros and cons to doing the same thing over and over again, which I learned during my second year. But during that first year, once your classroom is more established and you have a general structure for how things work, it becomes a lot easier for both you and your students, because everyone knows what to expect. And especially if you know that the structure that you set up is pretty good, then you become a lot more comfortable and especially a lot more confident going into work every day as well.
Going back to teaching, I'm curious, Harley, if you have some advice, what are 3 skills based on your experience that a teacher needs to have to be successful?
That's a really good question. I'd say the 3 main things that come to mind. The first 2 pertain to teaching itself, and then I think the third one is more so to like relationship building. The first, when it comes to teaching, I think especially since most schools are in person now, I'm pretty sure. A big part of teaching in the classroom that I felt like was a big challenge for me, especially during the start of my second year, was being comfortable public speaking every single day. I knew that was going to be something that I had to develop, and that I would get better at during my 2 years of Teach for America. And I definitely think I got a lot better at it. But it was especially energy consuming and also challenging in the beginning, because you're basically giving 3 to 4 hours worth of public speaking presentations every single day whenever you give a lesson, unless you're doing some different type of activity. But if you're just like presenting a new type of idea to the classroom, then you're going to be speaking a lot. So I think getting a lot of practice, building up stamina when it comes to public speaking is really important, because it's tiring. It was tiring for me. At the end of the workday, I would be exhausted from talking so much. So I think public speaking is really important. The second skill that I think is really important is just being able to explain complex ideas in a very simplified format, and breaking complex ideas down into simpler steps. You don't, and that's both in like spoken format and also visual format as well. Because if you're giving a presentation, you want to kind of pair up that presentation with both visuals and audio information as well. So if I'm teaching something like the Pythagorean theorem, you have to break it down into all its different components. And one of the difficulties with teaching is that every student kind of comes in with their own level of expertise in math, and they're not always on the same
like caliber.
Exactly. They don't always have the same understanding of a certain concept when they come into the classroom. So you have to be wary of that and not just assume that a student understands something, because likely you might have 1 or 2 students who might not understand that one concept. So you have to kind of cover all your bases. So with the Pythagorean theorem, one thing that I struggled with during my first year and that I fixed during my second year was I would assume that everyone knew how to square like a number, like what's 8 squared. I assumed everyone knew that, but that was not the case. So you have to kind of break it down into as many steps as possible and just be prepared for those challenges of students might not understand one thing, whereas you assume that they did know that. So being able to explain something that's complex in a simplified manner, I think, is another really important skill. And then the third skill is not so much with teaching itself, but I think it's more so relationship building. I watched this one TED Talk during Institute. So right before I started teaching,
Yeah.
one of my Teach for America supervisors, mentors, showed this TED Talk to us from this very veteran teacher on YouTube. And in the TED Talk, there's one saying that she said where it was students don't learn from people that they don't like. And I think that's very much the case. If the student really, I think whenever you think about like your favorite teachers or teachers that you can recall, you usually had a pretty good relationship with them. I think more oftentimes than not. And the teachers that you had a pretty good relationship with, or that you felt comfortable in their classroom, you would have a better learning experience. At least that was the case for me. Whereas where the teachers where I felt the most comfortable talking to outside of class, I would usually learn a lot more in their classrooms as well. So the third skill I would say is really important for a teacher to develop is definitely relationship building and being able to just talk to students outside of academics and just asking them how their weekend was, and learning about their lives outside of the classroom to whatever extent that they're comfortable with. I think that's definitely one of my biggest accomplishments as a teacher, especially during the second year, since it was all in person, was students being comfortable in my classroom and wanting to come to my classroom like during their lunch period instead of going to the cafeteria. At one point, I think I had like 10 plus students in my classroom during lunch, just like hanging out in there. And that was something
Yeah.
that I felt really happy about because it was like a signal to me that I was doing a pretty good job.
That's how you know they like you. Because if they're spending their lunch break with you, that means that they actually like you, and that means that you're providing value to them. Otherwise, if they're uncomfortable, or if they like, a student would not willingly sacrifice their lunch break unless they wanted to be there. So that's really good on you, Harley. I'm glad that you were popular and you were visited. Back to what you were saying about teaching. I feel like one conception that, well, I feel like a lot of people who are not teachers don't understand is that teaching is only like one half or even maybe one third of the battle. The other two thirds is like you need to actually care, and you need to nurture, and you need to be there for the students. And that, I can imagine, can be very tiring. And you mentioned that teaching is a very tiring job in general. I'm curious if you could give a little more insight as to like how many hours did you sleep every night, and in terms of like burnout, how were you able to find ways to mitigate that?
I think during year one, it was very difficult to separate work from home life, or like work from my personal life, especially since it was like fully virtual, and it was hard to have that clear separation. But during year two, it was a little bit easier to kind of keep work in at work, and also kind of have my own life outside of that when I would come home. But I'd say the hours were a lot rougher during my first year. I think when it came to just understanding what the best way of creating a lesson would be. I was very inexperienced during that. So it took me a lot more time to create a lesson, to grade stuff, and just like figuring out the general structure for my classroom. It was very time consuming during that first year. And I remember during like the first or second quarter, I think I had about, it felt like a college student schedule. I'd say like 5 to 6 hours of sleep. I would try to get a little bit more whenever I could, but during that, also with Teach for America, I don't know if this is for other regions, but I think it's pretty common for most regions. You'll also be working on your master's as well. So during the 2 years, you'll be working on a master's in education. So you'll be doing classwork for that program as well. So that adds a little bit more work on top of it. So if you bucket both teaching full time and also the master's program into that, then all under the umbrella of like Teach for America, the Teach for America experience, it adds a lot more hours for sure. But during year two, I got a lot better with my sleep. I think I was able to comfortably sleep whenever I wanted to. If I wanted to sleep early, I was able to. If I wanted to sleep a little bit later, I was able to as well. And for the most part, I was able to keep my work at work, and I didn't have to do too much lesson planning at home. So when I went home, that was basically home time. So that was really, really nice. But I didn't have that luxury until year two. So year one hours were rough. Year two, definitely a lot better.
That's maybe one specific factor that a lot of interested young professionals are for in going to TFA may not realize that it, just like any other teaching opportunity, a lot of it is not just teaching, it's also like planning, it's also like the emotional responsibilities that you have to have for your students, and I can imagine that can be pretty exhausting. So really, really helpful to know and to also spread that knowledge around.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned about like the emotional aspect of it, it was, I think the emotional aspect of it was really, it could be draining a lot of times. I remember a couple times where and one thing about teaching was that it was definitely emotionally draining at a lot of times. I think especially with a lot of components that were outside of your control. Two instances of this that I can recall off the top of my head. Throughout the school year, especially during like the first part of the school year, a lot of students were, I can see them visibly extremely tired, not just like somewhat tired from a long night, but like exhausted coming to class. And my approach to this was like, if a student is sleeping in class, I usually give them the benefit of the doubt, and I would ask them what's going on outside the classroom. Is everything okay? And one thing I learned was that students were taking on jobs like 20 plus hours on average. Some were working 30, 40 hours, like really rough hours outside of studying. And that was extremely, I think humbling and also very
Eye-opening, right?
frustrating. Yeah,
Yeah.
eye-opening as well. Knowing that in addition to the homework that I'm giving them, they're also having to take on these jobs to support their families. So I tried my best to kind of help them out in the classroom, whether it was allowing them to turn in homework later than the submission date. Whenever you have the time, just submit it to me, that's fine. Giving them extensions, giving them extra like notes and stuff, putting the online notes for them to access later. If they couldn't, if they didn't stay awake during class, they could just access it later on when they have the energy to look back on the notes. Another situation was I had a student who was like also very exhausted, and he didn't have a job that he was working, but he had to take care of his baby sister who was recently born, and he didn't get any sleep all night. And when he told me that, I was like, he told me his sister was like 10 weeks old, and I was like, what? This is just sleep, just sleep during class, get some rest, because yeah, I think just choosing your battles and being able to kind of adapt and understand that it's not just about what's happening in your classroom, but these kids have lives outside of the classroom as well, is really important.
100%. I feel like I definitely myself also come from an area of privilege where once when I get home from after school, I have time, I have a quiet space where I can just work or I can just focus. And for the most part, there haven't been disrupted me or have impacted me to the extent where, there's like fighting going on all the time, or maybe like I have other, unfortunate circumstances that I'm living in. And I'm very privileged to have the family that I do have who's very supportive. So yeah, no, that's definitely a really good point that you brought there, Harley. Hey, you mentioned that you did an internship for a management consulting firm in undergrad, but then you transitioned to TFA. Why did you decide to do TFA rather than just go the traditional consulting route or any other opportunity?
I think so. During the kind of whole process of deciding what I wanted to do after graduation, I kind of boiled it down to three main reasons for TFA over something else. I'm trying to recall those three reasons. Okay, so the three reasons would definitely be, I think the first one was definitely spending time with family was one of the biggest things for me, because Las Vegas and New Haven were really far from each other, and just being away from home for 4 years kind of took a toll on me, and I wanted to just come back home. So that was primary reason number one. And with Las Vegas being a smaller market, management consulting firms usually are in larger cities like New York, DC, LA. So it was difficult to have a management consulting firm experience in Las Vegas. So, but TFA allowed me to come back home. So that was reason number one. Reason number two, I would definitely say is kind of like minimizing regret. I had this idea in the back of my mind that probably near the end of my professional career, I would become a teacher after I did everything that I wanted to do. Teaching would
Really?
be like one of the last things that I wanted to do. But I had to be honest with myself and realistic with myself. I could not see myself, being 50 something years old and then going back into a teaching setting, because I don't think, to be honest with myself, I don't think I would be as motivated or ambitious in my like near the end of my professional career as I am now in
Or
the
probably
early
like
parts of my
energetic,
career.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Energy
Yeah.
as well would be another part. So I felt like this was the best time for me to do that, and I didn't want to have a regret of saying, "Oh, I should have taken that opportunity when I could." And Teach for America usually caters for like recently graduated college students, so I felt like it was a good opportunity for me to take in the moment. And then for management consulting, I could always go back to that in the future. And then the third reason for Teach for America was definitely the leadership development that they offered. I think one of the primary kind of marketing materials that Teach for America has is saying that it's a really great leadership development program for young professionals. And in my opinion, I think for me anyways, it was a really good leadership development opportunity. When I first started in the classroom, I don't think I am nearly as experienced or as developed as a leader as I am now. I definitely feel a lot more comfortable speaking in front of crowds. Feel a lot more confident in my ability to work with large groups of people and manage people. So I think all of those things that I wanted to develop, I was able to get a little bit better at it throughout the 2 years.
Gotcha. Well, that concludes our first half of our segment of the show. Harley, not sure if you paid attention or had the opportunity to watch the first Sippin Soju podcast. Do you know what the halftime show is?
Max, I'm working through episode 1 right now, and I'll be able to reflect back on this and realize I haven't gotten to the halftime show for episode 1 yet, but I will get there soon.
No worries. Basically, I'll break it down very quickly for you. The halftime show is a great segment where I get to test your knowledge with random trivia. The caveat is I have 3 questions I'll ask you using a random trivia generator. If you get all 3 questions correct, then I have to sing a song of your choice. However, if you don't get all 3 of the questions correct, then you have to sing a song of my choice. And it will be for 15 seconds long. And don't worry, I will throw on some background music when I post this. Does that sound fair?
I was not informed of the terms and conditions of the full podcast, but yes, that does sound fair.
I will say, not to put you in this position, Harley, but Guan's last time was actually 15 seconds of dancing. So definitely rewatch that because he did not get all 3 questions correct. He was very close.
I'll skip to the halftime show for Guan's episode then.
Okay, perfect. So are you ready for your first question, Harley?
Yes, I am.
Oh my goodness. These questions are so hard. Let me find another generator for you real quick because that one is, yeah. All right. So Harley, I'm sure you're very familiar with consulting questions. So this first one's somewhat related to it. How much more in weight does the sun weigh than Earth? I will give you, as long as you're within one significant figure, I'll give it to you. So like if you just give me like X figures, I'll give it to you.
How much more does the sun weigh than the Earth?
In weight. So like, yeah. This is so much harder than the ones I gave Guan. I'm sorry, Harley.
Wait, ask me 5 trivia questions. I get two I can get wrong.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All
So,
right, all right,
are you gonna
all
take a
right.
pass on this one, or you want to
No,
guess?
I'll take this one. The Earth and the Sun. I'd say like isn't the Sun is a million times bigger than than Earth. Did I get it right?
Oh, was that your answer? I thought you were just
Yeah,
thinking. My bad. I thought you were just thinking out loud.
a million times.
You're very close by a significant figure. It's apparently 330,000 times more in weight.
Oh, 330.
Yeah. So you're off by like 700K. So it's like fine.
Oh, I passed that one. Okay, perfect.
No,
This
no,
is
no, no,
good.
no, no, no. You didn't pass that one because you had to be in the correct significant figures. So
I
someone
should have
mark that
said
one as an L.
I should have said 500, 999K. All right.
Okay.
What's the next one?
Next question. If you think a stock's price will fall in the coming months, what option would you purchase?
If you think it'll fall,
Mm-hmm.
put.
Yes, pop off, King. Let's go. Yo,
I was
tell me,
like,
how
I
are
took
you
a whole
feeling right
class
now?
on this. I feel a
How's
lot
your
more
heart?
relieved. I feel a lot more relieved. I took a whole class on that in college. I was like, I hope I don't forget this.
Next question. Who was named People Magazine's sexiest man alive in 1991?
1991?
Yo, this is so messed up. It's 6 years before we were born. Oh my goodness.
Okay, I'm gonna expose my 1991. I have an answer, but I feel like my dates are
Say it. Say
wrong.
it. No. Go for it.
Is it president?
Uh, Not one that I'm familiar with.
Oh, it's not a president.
Yeah,
Then
I don't think so.
I have no answer for this.
It was
I
Patrick Swayze. Harley. Surely your parents have some People magazines from from way back then. Actually, they probably don't because
I don't think
you're
so.
born in China. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. So that's two wrong, one
It's too
right.
wrong.
So you have two more. You have two more to get right. Okay.
Okay, let's do this.
Alrighty. Next, I need to find some easier ones because these I would not get any of these. Oh my goodness. Wait, give me 1 second.
These should just be like mental math questions. You know,
Okay, here we go. How many colors are there in a rainbow?
Roy G. Biv,
Exposed.
right? It's Roy G. Biv. ROYGBV. Wait, here's the thing though. Here's the thing. I think indigo, I remember learning this in middle school. Indigo was in there. It was ROYGBIV. So are we including indigo in there or not? I feel like I will not include indigo in there. So it's going to be ROYGBV. ROYGBV. Six colors in a rainbow.
Is that your final answer?
Plus or six plus or minus one. Because indigo, wait, this is the okay, I'm gonna say six. Yeah, that's my final answer.
I just got beer in my eye.
Is indigo in there? Because if indigo's in there, I preface both answers. Those are my two answers. Either 6 without indigo or 7 with indigo.
Harley, I'm sorry. This is I need you to be confident. I need you to select one answer.
6, no indigo.
I'm sorry, it was 7. It was indigo, yeah.
Indigo's in there?
Yeah, like purple. I'm pretty sure purple is probably one of them. I honestly don't know. Wait, give me 1 second. Let me look up.
I don't know why I learned like indigo is an asterisk in Roy G. Biv.
Yeah, it's or like you said, you literally said it. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet.
What?
Yeah.
Hey, I feel like I should get that one. I feel like that's an asterisk. That's a bonus point. We'll make it exciting. 2 right, 2 wrong. We'll leave it up to the last one.
You know what? For the purposes of this podcast, I'll give it to you, even though I asked you 6 or 7. All right, sounds good. Sounds good. I'm gonna try to give you one that's challenging, but not like terrible. You know,
Okay.
just to keep things interesting. Okay. Next question. You need to give me the exact year because you are a millennial. When did the website Facebook launch?
Oh no. Oh, this is bad. Oh, I'm gonna get this wrong. Okay, let's narrow it down. I had a Facebook. I had a Facebook in middle school. Middle school was pre 2012, so I know for sure it's before 2012. I want to say 2004. I'll say 2004. 2004, 2008. I'll say 2004 is my final answer. 2004.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
You got it.
I got it?
You got it.
No! Let's go. I don't know why I thought 2004, but I probably heard it somewhere.
Nice. All right. Well, you got it. 2004. That's fantastic.
Let's go.
Oh my goodness. Wow. This is the first challenge that I failed. Wait, first of all, congratulations on getting the trivia. To be fair, the first 4, I typed in hard trivia questions. So they were really difficult, but the last one was just like standard general, like random ones. So great job. I would not have guessed 2004. I don't think I would have gotten that right. So yeah. So what is your song of choice? And I will try my best to woo you.
Max, this is, first of all, I feel extremely relieved. I don't have to sing any songs in front of the internet. This is wonderful. But what song I will share with you is a song that's very fitting for you, in my opinion, is Fly Me to the Moon. Have you heard of it?
I have, actually. Yeah, I have heard of it.
I've heard it all over TikTok. And I've seen it's a sound that's stuck in my head right now, and I think it's perfect. And you have a beautiful singing voice that I think would match perfectly with the melody of the song.
Oh boy, I just pulled up the lyrics. Actually, not funny fact, but fun fact. I think I actually learned this at one point on ukulele.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So this is. There definitely could be worse songs. I'm glad you didn't say like any like Nicki Minaj song or anything like that. I would have been like, can I just like chug a beer or like take a couple of shots or something like that?
I think this one's good. Wait, I feel like I remember you singing this before on your ukulele when we were in college. So maybe that's why I associate this song with you.
Gotcha. Well, I'm ready when you are, I suppose.
I can't wait to hear it. I'm gonna mute myself just for the purpose of this, so we can hear your beautiful voice by itself. So whenever you're ready.
Let me actually you know what? I'm not even going to listen to the song. I'm just gonna give my own version. All right. 1 second. I just burped, so I had to do that. Okay. Fly me to the moon. Let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. All right, that's all you get.
I hope the recording sees my my virtual claps on here. My reactions. I give a little clap. I'll give a little celebration over here. Give a heart here as well. That was beautiful. For those people who don't know, in college, Max and I lived with Guan and also Calvin as well. The 4 of us lived together, and I think for sure during the years that we lived together, there was a lot of singing. And if I had to choose the objectively best singer, it would probably be myself and then Max. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, it would definitely be Max. It would definitely be Max as the objectively best singing voice in the suite. and then it dramatically falls off after him. So I don't know who's 2, 3, and 4, but I think Max is probably the most musically talented in our suite. But I don't know if that's saying too much.
Hey man, thank you so much for the kind words. I don't believe that's the case, but hey, I'm happy that you enjoyed this short clip. So
it was beautiful.
Awesome. Well, Harley, thanks for being such a great sport with the halftime show. Really enjoyed picking your brain to see what your worldly knowledge was. But going back to what we were discussing earlier, curious about your teaching experience and just a couple of more personal questions, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
What is the worst thing that a student has told you? Judging by your laughter, I feel like you probably have a couple in mind. Or
okay, I don't think this is the worst thing that a student has told me, but in terms of like, wow, that was terrible, I wish I didn't hear that. It was more so something that I thought was really, really funny, and it was definitely something I look back on with smiles for sure. So during year 2, I basically wore my mask in the classroom the entire year, and my students never saw my face. And near the end of the year, I ended up going to graduation for our belated commencement. And we took some pictures there, and I wanted to share my pictures with my students saying, oh, this is what I did over the weekend. I went to commencement. Here are some of the graduation pictures. And I have this one student in particular who has me every single day. She has like 2 of my classes. I teach 2 different classes. So she basically sees me every single day. And she's great. She's wonderful. The first time I showed it, she looked at the picture and she started smiling. And that was during the first class. So the second class, I showed it again. And then she started laughing. And I asked her, I was like, I called her out in front of the class. I was like, what's so funny about the picture? And she's like, oh, it's nothing. You just don't have your mask on. I'm just like, and I asked her, I was like, what do you mean by that? And she's like, it's not that you're ugly, but
that's hilarious.
And what she explained to me was, you look really young, but in the picture, it looks like you have a mustache. Do you have a mustache? And I was like, no, I don't have a mustache. And then I looked closer at the picture. I was like, what are you seeing? And she sees, I think there was like some shadow in there that made it seem like I had a full-on mustache, which I don't. And I think she was laughing at that. But her comment, I think definitely was, it was pretty funny in my opinion.
That's hilarious, actually. Oh my goodness. I don't think I would have survived after a comment like that. I think I would have just packed up my things and just, called out sick that day.
Just walked out. Yeah, I was very close to doing so after she said that.
So going off of that, what is the best thing that a student has told you? I know on your Instagram or on your Instagram, you posted one of your students' notes, and that was really thoughtful, but just curious if there are any others.
I think that was definitely up there as one of like the most touching things was a student at the end of the year writing me a handwritten note saying saying how much she appreciated being in my class. And I think that was very heartfelt and very touching. I think other times I would usually give students kind of like classroom evaluations, which was something that Yale really liked to do. And I tried to implement that into my own classroom. And whenever I gave students these surveys, they were anonymous surveys of how's your teacher doing, which was me. And I would let them write anything at all. And a lot of times I saved like a whole email thread of positive affirmations for me to look back on. And I remember a couple in particular that mentioned like, thank you for making math fun. Thank you for making this class, like making me enjoy coming to your class. Your class is fun to come to. Like just small comments like those are really important to me. And it makes, there's small reminders that I'm doing a good job. Another one was from a student I had in my first year of teaching. The student was really, really bright. She was extremely motivated as well. She wanted to learn more than whatever lessons I was providing in class. So I would give her like extra lessons and stuff. She ended up transferring to a different school, and she ended up transferring to the high school that I ended up going to because she wanted to go into a program that was really rigorous and a lot very academically challenging, and because there was a magnet program there. And at the beginning of this school year, she sends me an email saying that I'm having a great time here. I hope you're doing well. And just that type of reaching out really was really touching as well. So I think just little moments like that to know that students are thankful to be in your classroom, because a lot of times when you're teaching in front of the class, it's hard to gauge that from students because they seem disinterested, but those small reminders let you know that you're not doing too bad of a job.
Honestly, I feel like it's moments like that that really give you the motivation and that really give you the affirmation as well to continue doing what you're doing. So that must be really nice to just like see and to also hear from your students. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very, very easy, 10 being one of the most difficult things you've ever endured, how hard is being a teacher?
I think during different parts of the school year and during different parts of the 2 years of Teach for America, I had everything from, I'd say, like 3 to 10. And I think on like both sides of the spectrum, like 3 would be during like finals weeks where I would just, I didn't have to do too much because I would just be proctoring a test. So you did have small moments like that where you're just giving a test, but I think the very challenging parts were during like the beginning parts of the school year of trying to get students up to speed with the content, and you're doing a lot of one-on-one tutoring is what I felt like I was the best at doing. So I would during the first 2 quarters of the school year, especially, I didn't have too many lunch breaks because during those lunches, I would have students coming in to get like additional one-on-one tutoring. So I would be teaching basically nonstop the whole day. And that was just to help students catch up to speed on certain concepts that they might have forgotten from the summer, or they might not have fully mastered from their previous classes. So I think that was very difficult of just having the thought of, oh no, I need to do a little bit more. There's more I can do. Whenever you have that mindset, it can be pretty taxing on you. And also, I think during the winter time as well was really difficult for students, just in terms of motivation and emotion. I think just during the winter, everyone's a little bit not as energetic as they are like during the beginning of the school year, the end of the school year. So trying to make it through that was pretty difficult, and trying to keep like your own energy up to hopefully distribute that energy across the classroom. That was kind of difficult.
Gotcha. But with all that difficulty, did you ultimately find teaching to be rewarding?
Yeah. I think it was very, very rewarding of an experience. Like the few times that you get those like small notes from students, small comments here and there. And also the times when students are actually getting the material, and you have also data to support that from their performance on tests and their performance on homework assignments. You kind of validate your work of understanding, okay, there's data to back this up, that I'm doing a good job of teaching this material, and they're understanding it. And also the qualitative side of it as well, of seeing students in your classroom during their lunch periods. You're reminded that, wow, this is pretty cool. So yeah, I think it was definitely meaningful.
Gotcha. Well, Harley, I'm actually starting a new segment here. This is what I like to call the second break of the podcast, which is the social media deep dive. So, Harley, I basically ran through all of your social media platforms and didn't find anything on Instagram, but you know me, during our 4 years together, there have been a mass number of just beautiful memories, and I actually have a couple that I like to share with you.
Oh no.
So how it's going to work is I will send you the picture. I'll just do it via Facebook Messenger to you if you could access that. And then
Okay.
I'd like you to explain it. And then in the actual podcast, I'll pull it up. So
Okay.
I'll throw the picture right here. So this is picture number
Oh,
one. If you don't mind explaining, like,
I love this picture. This picture, just seeing it brings back good memories. I think this was sophomore year. This was
yep,
sophomore year. The Harvard, Yale Harvard game. It was in New Haven. I remember it being really cold. It was a really, really fun time because I think we
we won.
were, we won. We stormed the field, and I think we were ready to go to DC after this. No,
I
were
think
we?
so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. That was the first time visiting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was around Thanksgiving, right? Yeah, this was around
Yep.
Thanksgiving. This brings back really, really good memories. And this was our first year living together as well. So all smiles here. This was great.
Oh my goodness, you have better memory than me. Totally forgot we were going to Thanksgiving. Um, Going to image number two. Let me know when you get it. It's a little bit stretched out because of the resolution or something. So explain to the viewers what's going on here.
Uh, um, I kind of forgot this existed. Um, I think this photo was probably one of two scenarios. I remember this was in the basement of our dorm, and this was in the study area. There were benches and stuff. It was really nice. It looked like a cafe basically, and I didn't know this was the case. But when I'm very, very tired, I tend to sleep with my eyes open. I don't know if that happens anymore, but I think in this photo I was completely knocked out. But as you can see, if you zoom in, don't zoom in. But my eyes are open slightly while I'm passed out.
I put a lovely caption there in case viewers couldn't zoom in, but at the time I was like, how is Harley sleeping with his eyes open? Um, On to the next then, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think, was this Masquerade?
It was.
Masquerade, I forgot what Masquerade was, but I think it was just like a formal dance we had at Yale. And the idea of it was to come up with masks, and you would go to the dance in formal attire, but with masks on. And knowing our suite, we didn't want to buy very expensive masks. I don't know where we got these from, but we found these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle masks somewhere. They were like paper masks. They were very, very fragile, and I think they were held together by a string. And we each had one, and I think we were we were ready to take on the world in this picture. It was great.
We were the Avengers.
We were the Avengers in this. We were the
All right.
Avengers.
I have one last photo, and I wanted to end on this one just because it this photo right here that I captured, it meant a lot to me, but
Mhm.
I want you to explain what it meant to you.
What? I don't remember this picture. Wait, what?
I took this.
Oh my. Wait. Okay, was this Boston?
Yep.
This was Boston, right? This was at the boba shop.
Beard Papa.
This was at Beer Papa?
Yep.
Oh, oh my God. Okay, so during our junior year, we took a trip to Boston together, and we basically went on a full day of eating. And this was at Beard Papa's, and I don't think this was the item we got, right? This was a different type of bun.
This
This wasn't the
was
Beard Papa's bun.
let me zoom in actually.
I think this was like this is like a Chinese bun. I don't think this is the Beard Papa's bun, because the Beard Papa's bun has like
Creme
cream.
brulee. Yeah,
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 creme brulee
yeah.
on the top and cream.
I posted the wrong picture. No, never
Yeah, this
mind.
is at the
Wait.
boba shop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, this one is Boba. Never mind.
So this was taken at a boba shop that we went to. I remember this one because we had I remember ordering like an ice cream boba milk tea. It was okay. It was very expensive. It was like $7 or something. And it was just really sweet. I remember it being like decent. I think they put ice cream into the boba. It sounds a lot better than it tasted, but this was like I think this is I don't know if this type of bun has like filling on the inside, but it's kind of it has like that crusty type of sweet thing on the top, and it's really good. Yeah, this was a really fun trip. This is like a 1 day trip though, for me.
Yeah, during that trip, you really embraced your inner Mikey Chen. So
I ate as much as I could. The food was so good. I just remember it being really, really good.
well, that's why I wanted to leave that as the last photo. Number one, because I think we all had a really great time during that trip. And number two is I was getting a little hungry, so definitely wanted to look at that. But Harley, I actually only have four more questions for you, and these will be more so rapid fire. So if you could
Okay.
just say what's at the top of your mind, okay?
Okay, for sure.
The first of which is what drives you and what gets you up in the morning? Like what ultimately motivates you?
I think two main things. The first one is definitely like making my family and friends proud. I think especially for my family. I think being like the having like the immigrant story, moving an entire country and stuff. They put up a lot. They went through a lot, and I feel like every day if I don't make the most of my opportunity and do well, it's kind of not making the most of what I was given. So I think definitely wanting to make my family proud is something really important to me. Another thing is just learning every day. I think learning something new every day is something else that drives me as well.
What are you most proud of so far?
Mm, I'd say probably graduating from college and having the experience that I've been able to have, and reflecting on that whole kind of academic journey and also kind of personal journey in terms of growth. I'm pretty happy with the person I am today. I'm pretty proud of who I've become, and I think this is not rapid fire. I'm sorry, but this is I'm going a lot over time here. But I
No
think
worries.
if like younger me saw who I am today, I think he'd be pretty happy. So I'm pretty happy about that.
On the flip side, what is your biggest regret so far?
Probably not studying computer science in college. Yeah, I think that's probably up there.
And then what is your goal in the next year?
Um, the goal in the next year for me would be to start a side type of project, very similar to how you're starting Sippin Soju. I would want to do something like this, like that's more of on my creative side and not something that's directly associated with work, whether it's continuing my TikTok or making videos for YouTube, anything like that would be great. And yeah, I think that's definitely one goal that I want to do.
For everyone who doesn't know, Harley popped off on his first TikTok. He amassed, I think, over like 1.6 million views, right?
Up there, yeah, 1.6 million views. I think like 16 something case followers.
And it was because you sang a song. So you are most definitely more well known for singing than I am. But yeah, this is a free plug. Say your TikTok.
Currently, my TikTok is Harley Eats Food. If you're able to like, comment, and subscribe, that would be great. Currently, I'm going through a rebranding phase from the singing content to more food-related content. So that's with the name change, and look forward to more vlogs in the future of my kind of adult life in DC.
I will throw his TikTok in the description. And then following that comment, what about in the next 10 years?
Oh, 10 years?
So I asked Guan actually the exact same question.
Mhm.
Guan would be turning 35. Well, 34 technically. But
34.
10 years, that's a long time. We'd be like in our mid 30s.
Mm. I think around that time, um, hopefully by then, what I'm thinking is like professionally, I'll have probably like my MBA by then, and I'll be pretty established in terms of feeling pretty good at the current company I'm at. Hopefully, my professional career continues to progress, and I feel very comfortable with where I'm at. Hopefully, I have a job where I feel very happy with both like the financial part of it and also the work-life balance of it. Hopefully it's a job that I enjoy doing. Another thing is during that time, hopefully I'm still very much connected with like all my friends from college, like you guys, and also my friends from Las Vegas as well. Hopefully I'm still very much connected to them. I don't know about my relationship life though, about like in the 30s, what that's going to look like. If I'm going to have a family or not, but I haven't thought too much about that. So I don't know, but I've been very much thinking about my professional life for sure.
That was going to be my last question, but now that you brought up relationships, Harley, I have to ask you, do you have any prospective candidates that you like to call out, or how is that love life right now?
To say the least, it's not very much active right now. This would be a great plug for anyone who. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We cut that out. We cut that out.
We leave it in.
Yeah, not too much. I think no perspective, no prospects at all. I think currently I've just been enjoying my time at home. I'll be moving to DC soon and transitioning to a new job, so I've just been focusing on that. Haven't really thought of too much outside of that.
That will soon change. I opened a fortune cookie last week and it said change is coming among us. Anyway, Harley, thank you so much for being not only just a great guest, sharing your experience for everything that you've been through. And also, I learned a lot more about you just from doing this as well. I feel like there are some things that I typically never had the chance to ask you. So with that being said, can you please give the Sippin Soju viewers an outro? Any words of advice, any last minute comments, anything and everything else? The floor is yours.
This is to all the viewers out there and all the listeners. Thank you for your support. Thanks for tuning into episode 2 of the Sippin Soju podcast. Please continue supporting this podcast. It's definitely up there as one of my favorite podcasts so far. I can't wait for future episodes. I can't wait for this one episode to air for me to look back on and kind of reflect on.
Can you please give the viewers a quote, a motivational quote, or some words of advice?
Some motivational words of advice. One that I heard a long time ago. I think it's attributed to Kevin Durant a lot. It says like work hard. It goes work hard beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So I think work hard goes pretty far, and it's something that I remind myself a lot of whenever times are a little bit rough. But thank you all for tuning in, and I can't wait for future episodes of the Sippin Soju podcast.
Please give Harley a round of applause. Thank you all for tuning in, and look forward to episode 3.
See y'all in episode 3. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Yo, cut this part out. Cut this part out.